today I'm really excited to introduce Terry from AgriiDAO. AgriiDAO is one of my absolute favorite projects on ICP because it deals with something so universally important to all of us, which is food. So AgriiDAO is essentially trying to take all our favorite aspects of the blockchain, decentralization, transparency, traceability, and security, and apply that to agriculture. So Terry, for someone who's maybe never heard of the project, can you take a minute and maybe explain the mission and what you've been working on?
Okay. So essentially, I mean, you've kind of summed it up really well anyway. Essentially what we're doing is we're just decentralizing food systems. And how we're doing that is providing tools that enable anybody anywhere across the globe to essentially create their own farming co-op, and utilize the tools to enable a more decentralized marketplace, open and transparent. And I mean, people are going to use our tools in various ways, but essentially we're just creating this ecosystem that makes it just so much easier for us to get access to quality, affordable, nutritious food and services within agriculture.
Yes, sir. So good. Well, thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing. I haven't really seen any other projects in the space that are trying to do anything to this degree with food. So I've just been really impressed since I found you. So essentially at the base layer of AgriiDAO is AgriiProtocol, correct?
Yeah, so I mean, the agricultural data, in fact, data in general, like, is really fragmented. And what we're seeing now, and you've heard Bobby speaking about it, the way data has been designed on Web 2 is just like so really crazy fragmented, and the quality is like not necessarily always there. So that's the case everywhere, and agriculture is no different. If not, agriculture is probably lagging behind because although it's like one of the oldest industries, it's one of the industries that's been least disrupted by technology. Technology is being used but it's not, it hasn't found its way to the blockchain center stage. It's kind of there, but not there enough. So what we're doing with Protocol is we are essentially building a distributed data ledger where all agricultural data, food system data, is essentially collected in a single place, which happens to be a distributed place because it's built on ICP. And so then now we actually have a lot more end-to-end traceability of what's happening. We have immutable records. We have provenance of data. We like all of these things there that mean nothing to anybody on the surface, but actually, really and truthfully, it's actually really important. It's important for analytics. It's important for prediction markets. It's important for just understanding how much food is being wasted, how much food is being grown, what's the true nutritional value. It's also important because it now enables us to bring a lot more people on chain and online. I mean, big ag, they're doing it. Do you understand? So some of the stuff that I'm saying might not necessarily apply to big ag, but we're not talking about big ag here. We're talking about the smallholder farmer. We're talking about small communities. Yes. Like if you look around the world, everywhere you look there's issues with farmers and agriculture and food and stuff like that. So it's about servicing that group of people and providing a data repository for everybody to be able to access to say, yeah, this is where this came from. And it gives us a lot more. It gives us a lot more power in making informed decisions when we have clean, reliable, immutable, untampered with data.
Bringing the power back to the people.
Yes.
Phenomenal.
I mean, ultimately, look at AgriiProtocol like you would look at any other L1 blockchain. The goal there for AgriiProtocol, though, is to maintain a data ledger. That's literally what we're doing.
Incredible. And so once AgriiProtocol is set up, it's already set up and running, correct?
Yes. AgriiProtocol has been running for definitely over 6 months, I think. It's been live. So at the moment, we've been recording price data from AgriiPrice on the protocol. So essentially, all of the tools that we build within AgriiDAO all utilize AgriiProtocol. So as we bring a new tool online, it might have its own new canister if it requires, a different data spec and functionality. So it might either be a new canister that we add to the protocol, or we use the existing canisters to generate a useful front end. So it depends. But we've been running AgriiPrice for a moment there. So all of the data that's been stored on AgriiPrice, all of the prices we've collected over the year and a bit, are all stored securely on AgriiProtocol. We've probably got about a year plus worth of data. And I think I'm not sure if we've gone past the 10,000 mark yet. So it's being used already for that. It's already being used for managing users. Like literally everything at the moment is there. We've got social rewards. They're being managed by the protocol as well. And all of the new exciting things that we're building are also being integrated into protocol.
So exciting. And so kind of one of the main goals is to leverage the protocol and allow people who have their own agricultural projects to create co-ops on the protocol, correct?
You said two things there, because there are two different things that are actually going to happen. So since we're still speaking on protocol, we'll stick with that for a moment. And what we didn't want AgriiProtocol to be a silo ledger, right? We want people who have existing ag tech projects, whether it's on-chain or off-chain, to plug their data into the protocol, because then it means that we all get to share a much cleaner, broader data set. So in our roadmap, not just now, but a bit further down the roadmap, we will be building out the APIs to enable anybody to integrate their front end or their tool into protocol, and then protocol starts managing the data collection. Reason why that's really important is because where we're going to go in the future requires us to have really good data. And then in terms of the second part with regards to co-ops, we have built a new standard that enables existing agricultural projects. I mean, it could be an existing project, it could be a new project, and it can also be an existing agricultural co-op to essentially utilize the agri co-ops is what we call them. So the co-ops within AgriiDAO, utilize those co-ops in a compliant way to be able to use it for governance purposes, funding and tokenization, supply chain and real world asset tokenization, and automating rewards back out to its members. So we've studied how traditional co-ops actually work and why they're compliant. And then we've now coupled that with DAOs and how DAOs work and put the whole thing on chain and say, okay, cool, we've created something that kind of has the best of both worlds. Co-ops are like probably the original DAO before DAOs. They're like centuries old, and they're essentially member-owned organizations, which makes them slightly different from a public company. So they're slightly different from a public company, very different they're different from a public company and a private company. And if you follow the rules of a co-op, you get a lot of flexibility and leverage when it comes to securities and stuff. But don't break those laws, break those rules, because then you find yourself in the funny situation. So we've built all of that into our co-ops to enable the transparency and the trust side of what happens with a blockchain, and the DAO type of governance. The difference between a DAO and a co-op, for instance, is that members in a DAO vote based on their token holdings. More tokens you hold, the more voting power you have. In a co-op, it's one member, one vote. So it's a lot more democratic. A bit more like how we vote on new governments. It doesn't matter how much money you have one vote. You can use your money to influence other elements to it, but you still only have one vote. And that's how co-ops operate, and that's how our co-ops operate as well. But with our co-ops, like I said, so they can handle the governance elements of things. So a bit like how we have proposals put forward in the NNS and people vote yes or no and stuff, they'll be able to do that within the co-ops on whatever the co-op activities are and whatever they're pushing for. And we've also included project funding. So essentially how co-ops work is that anyone can join a co-op. So anyone can start a co-op, anyone can join a co-op. When you create your co-op is essentially an entity, an independent entity. It's actually going to be a canister, and you determine the rules. These are the rules of this co-op. This co-op is going to be focused on building a zero-waste food system, and we're going to do that by freeze-drying food, and we're going to call it AgriiFoods. There we go, that's the co-op. This co-op charges all projects 10% co-op fees on all projects funded at any revenue generated from that project, and that's how that co-op sustains itself. And the co-op units are priced at $5 per unit, for example. And now the co-op exists, and anyone can now join this co-op, and essentially they'll swap their Agrii Tokens for co-op units, and then those units are converted into stable coins. So now the co-op is holding a treasury of stable coins, Agrii Tokens, and the holders now have their units. As a co-op member, you can now decide to propose a project. So you might say, okay, look, I'd like to do a chili farm. I want to freeze dry some chilies, and I just want to grow the chilies, and I'm going to need $10,000 to do this. And so you create the proposal. The proposal is the project. That project is structured in a way where you have to say, here's the project, here's what you need, here's what the output's going to be in terms of RWAs, and here are the milestones.
Yes.
And the community votes it in, and then the community uses their units to fund the project. So the project's now being funded, and the funds are released on a milestone basis, right? So you raise 10K, but you don't have access to 10K. You have access to your first milestone money. And then from that point there, it's every milestone verified, then more funds are released until the project is complete. At the end of the project, you decide the agreement was that the funders would get RWAs, and so they'll get the RWAs, then the project will go and sell the rest of the RWAs, generate revenue, and the co-op gets its fees from that. The co-op can get its fees also in RWAs or in Agrii, which way. So that's essentially what it is. Now, that project itself is contributing to the mission of the co-op. So every member in the co-op can initiate projects that move the agenda of the project. Now, you might have a different type of co-op, and you said you might want to have a natural remedies co-op, right? So in your natural remedies co-op, you set it up, you raise all the, you've got all your members in the natural remedies co-op, and then now you can start saying, okay, these are foods that are really good for solving A, B, and C. And people start, you have growing with there, or you might fund other projects in other co-ops so you can get those, essentially get what you need. And we've designed it essentially as an ecosystem, because you might also provide services, you might provide infrastructure. And essentially what happens now in our ecosystem is all of these different co-ops and projects and members are essentially utilizing all of these different things. So now we've got sort of like a bartering system happening within the ecosystem. But at the same time, someone can just literally redeem the RWA, turn it into a physical product and take delivery of it. So, the co-ops are flexible enough for someone to do what they feel they need to do in a co-op. So one co-op could focus on an infrastructure project, like a facility for, processing cocoa. Somebody else has got a co-op for growing cocoa, and another person's got an off-taker co-op that buys and sells, so it's flexible enough for everybody to do what they see fit. And I'm really excited about what we're going to do with this, because essentially I think that we may have created an alternative to typical business, whereby through these co-ops, and everyone joining these co-ops and then putting these co-ops on display, because the other side is a lot of people don't realize that 12% of the population belong to a co-op globally. right? There are like 3 million co-ops globally, roughly, and about 1 million of those co-ops are in agriculture. That's how much they drive, like, the economy. They drive the globe, and that's probably why the UN has made 2025 the International Year of Cooperatives, because they want to shine the light on it. I think they've done it once before, and it's to shine the light on how much co-ops play a role in society. And I think the other side is that co-ops exist to benefit its members, not financially, but so they actually get the benefit of whatever the co-op exists for, right? It's like, actually, we need to shift the way global trade is working and move from a capitalist society. And I think it's like the co-ops are the organic, natural shift. It's been here for centuries. It's tried and tested. There's rules that govern it. They work.
Since agriculture started, we've been using co-ops.
We've been using co-ops, but not just in agriculture. I mean, there's other things, but exactly in agriculture. But it's across so many different industries, right? So I think now that the whole emphasis on decentralization and blockchain and all of that stuff has come into play, I think that co-ops are going to take on a new life. They're going to evolve and be the organizations of the future. In the future, like, there's no gatekeepers to stop anyone from participating in an organization. That's what blockchain is. Blockchain is like anyone can participate, anyone can join us, And now by turning that into a co-op, anyone can participate in our food system. Doesn't matter where you are in the world, So now you can have a direct access to all the best foods in the world that you need. And you can do that because you say, okay, right, I'm going to be a member of this thing and I want to see these things change. I want to be the difference. I want to, and then you're also able to now get access to whatever's produced at cost or a discount.
Come on.
That shifts everything. And then now we're moving into a much more free market. And, what we want is for people to come to AgriiDAO, and when you click on co-ops, you see almost like a coin market cap type thing with all the co-ops. This is the co-op's name. This is the total contributions, total value locked. This is the amount of projects that this co-op has done. This is the amount of funds that have been deployed. This is what the returns look like. This has been the social. This has been the impact, the economic, social, and governance, the impacts. All that you can click in. You can really dive in to say, this co-op is making a difference in the world. This co-op is doing this. You get to measure. So now you can really go into things and say, I want to be in this, this, and this.
And you can check the status of these projects at any time, right? I wanted to briefly touch on the milestone aspect and how important that is for accountability.
Yes.
Because you can't just set a goal and then get all that money in one shot and then peace out, right?
You know what I mean?
You're held accountable to these milestones that you set, and anyone can check on the progress of these milestones at any time and make sure they're doing what they said they're going to do. Exactly. They're on track or not. And so that's pretty revolutionary.
That was really important for us to get that part in there. And that's version 1 of what it looks like. We're building all the rest of the things to make it so tight. Loss is always going to exist. That's the risk of everything. But reducing the risk is more important. If we can mitigate the risk, then we've done a good service to the community.
Excellent. Cool. Well, that's a good start, bro. What else we got?
I've had quite a few conversations, especially coming from Davos, and just speak to people post Davos and stuff. And the concept is loved as a whole. Then it gets a bit muddy for people. And I realized it was because there was no separation of interests when I was speaking about it. AgriiDAO is the DAO that governs the ecosystem. Mm-hmm. What ecosystem is it governing? It's governing the tools, essentially. These are the tools that have been developed, and AgriiLabs develops the tools, or has been the primary developer, pre-SNS. Post-SNS, we're going to still be a major contributor, but other people can participate and add to it. But in any case, it's our job to make sure we continuously push, at least on the roadmap that we've set out. So we have AgriiLabs, then we have the DAO. The DAO governs the tools. One of the tools is the co-op. And within the co-op, lots of things can exist. And within the co-op, we're actually, what we had before is we had the message of zero waste food systems in Africa as the forefront of AgriiDAO, only to realize that when we're speaking to people about AgriiDAO, they're like, hey, we need that here as well. Hey, we need that in the US. We need that in Indonesia. We need that in Brazil. We need that in Jamaica. We need that in, in
everywhere.
Exactly. That's essentially what I got. And I was like, oh, well, I thought you guys were cool. Okay. And interestingly, we'd already designed the model for community co-ops. But we kind of had to say, no, we need to separate this more so that the DAO can focus on doing what the DAO does, which is governing the tools, the protocol, trace, price, market, and the co-ops. It governs the tools to make sure that the tools are fair and they're doing what they're supposed to do. We moved AgriiFoods to essentially be the co-op element, an example of a co-op is a good way to look at it. Say, hey guys, look, here's what we've built and here's an example of it in practice. And now that becomes AgriiFoods. So now AgriiFoods is a co-op focused on building a zero waste food system. So everything we spoke about still exists, but now it's in a co-op. And that's what I love about this, because the co-op itself, everyone can still participate and join the co-op. Everyone can fund the co-op. The co-op is going to have all sorts of projects, mile-based, milestone-based, all the rest of it. But ultimately, the output of that co-op is the physical food products that we spoke about, the 25-year.
RWAs.
There we go.
Sorry, I cut you off. The 25-year shelf life, freeze-dried products.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's what's the most important. So that's what that particular co-op is focused on. So AgriiFoods is now going to be a co-op that everyone can participate in, and this is what AgriiFoods stands for. This is what it's about. So essentially, we're using our tools the same way that Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg uses their social platforms. We're also using the tools as well, the same way that Amazon uses its platform for its Amazon Basics products and for hosting its own services. We're using the tools that we've built and inviting everybody else to join us as well, because actually, guys, we can all use these tools and they'll make life so much better for everyone.
Yes, sir. And the potential network effects of people using these tools is what's really exciting, right?
Put it this way, based on the stats that we have for existing co-ops that have not been digitized yet, right? A lot of co-ops are not digitized. They're very, very unchanged in how they operate. There are about 1 million agri-focused co-ops globally with about 300 million members. That's not including the ones that we do not know about. That's not including the informal co-ops that exist, because there's even more of those. The top 100 agricultural co-ops in the US generate about $194 billion in business. So essentially, we're like just pulling the lid off and saying, peekaboo, guys, there's a new model that we can all participate in that has existed for a long time. We didn't know about it, but it's now on chain. Let's go. And like you said, so the network effects. And what's great about it is that you can be a member of so many co-ops. You could be like, I'm part of like 50 co-ops, and
there's no cap.
There's no cap. There's no cap on the co-ops that you can participate in. We haven't created these crazy rules that the co-op must do this or must do that. We've just focused on ensuring that the co-ops are compliant. And some of the compliance is slightly not 100% what we want in Web3, but it's just like, well, this is how we bring this on chain. And as we continue to evolve in Web3, then we can adjust, the rules of the co-ops to ensure that they remain compliant. The last thing we want to do is get people in trouble for operating co-ops when there's strict rules, so we can just do those.
And these rules are different per region, I assume, per country, per state?
We have taken the liberty of looking at global rules across all the different regions and ensuring that the fundamentals are in place within our co-ops, and then it will be based on, now you just need to make sure you are following the rules according to your region. So we've made it globally compliant, and then, regionally, it's going to be up to the individual operating the co-op to say, I'm in this region, these are the things that I need to be aware of. I mean, we're going to continue to, enhance that. And the goal is to also start working with all of these types of bodies, so to speak, to ensure that we can build a lot more compliance in. So version 1 is going to be like very blanket compliance. But as we continue to evolve, as you pick your country, it will just tell you these are the rules that you need to follow. So we're going to be doing all of those types of things there. So we're very much about, like, it's not burn the old, it's about evolve the old. Price was set to capture prices across the continent, but now I realized that we can actually capture prices globally, which makes it even more valuable. Every country and every city has a major hub where fruit and veg move. Those prices don't exist other than in those places.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to bring
people take advantage of that. Yes, people exploit that arbitrage.
Exploit it, arbitrage. And you see, the thing is, those prices won't stop arbitrage. Like, let's think about what we've seen in Web3. Arbitrage exists because people can see the prices. They're like, okay, right, over here it's at $1, and over here it's at 98 cents. Okay, I'm going to buy it at 98 cents here and sell it at $1 here and make 2 cents. Right? Because price is there, they can discover it. It happens. It actually opens more business than creates less. So that's one of the things that we can also do. And this is like a fundamental part that helps people plan their projects. Because if you know how much a kg of potatoes are retailing for at market, then at least you know when you're planning your project that involves potatoes, you know that, okay, right, this is the price that we need to purchase these potatoes before we tokenize them, before we do, and depending on what your project is. But from an AgriiFoods perspective, we need to know what's the raw price of this thing, because that has a cost. It's not free. And then we're going to freeze dry it, which is a process as well. We need to know the actual costs of what's happening. And you can't know the costs if you don't know what things cost in the market and stuff. So that's why we needed the transparency of that. The other side is, okay, so how is the DAO going to make money then? So there's these different things. So we have to really look at everything again and say, how are we going to drive the adoption, and how is it going to generate revenue for the DAO? And I think one of the things that we're looking at now is burn-in fees. We will be generating a lot of fees based on the volume of transactions that will happen across the ecosystem.
Every transaction is a fee.
Every cash transaction. Every transaction that involves, so the data transactions, maybe not, because if there's no exchange of a token for it, Agrii is the token of the platform. So if there's an Agrii is what all fees are paid in. So we're still maintaining the zero gas fee model of ICP, which makes the platform function well, where people can just use it, boom, 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 boom. But the moment you go to swap, exchange, pay for, buy, any of those transactions will trigger a fee. And those platform fees are paid to the DAO. From there, then the DAO members get to vote on, okay, how much of this should we burn? Should we burn all of it, half of it, whatever? And then that creates the deflationary side of things. And then maybe later on, the DAO might decide that, hey, we should implement another model, or so on and so forth. Each tool is a product, right? And each tool has its own roadmap of where it can go.
You referred to them as verticals as well?
Yeah, each vertical. Each tool is a vertical, and it can go so far down, and it can also go across. But we've also designed it so that they're interdependent, so they all can operate by themselves, and they can also be utilized across the ecosystem. And what we're doing now is we're setting the foundation. We're setting the foundation for the future. So we've got to kind of just get this base layer right. Once the base layer is right, then it makes it easier for us to adopt and adapt to things that are happening. Like, we do have AI in our roadmap, there's some stuff we want to do with that. We think that will probably single-handedly break down so many barriers for all stakeholders within the space. So that's going to be really exciting. Ultimately, we just want to make sure that people and communities have the necessary tools to build sustainable food systems, irrespective of what's going on globally. Whether you put tariffs, sanctions, it doesn't even matter. A community is never affected. we can be affected in other ways, but we shouldn't be affected by our food. And if we think about the lessons of recent, i.e., COVID and lockdowns, we ended up with a food shortage because food was the responsibility of a particular group of people. It wasn't close to home. And we don't know what type of things could have been approved because of the desperation. And it's like, well, we now know better. We can plan for the future. We don't anticipate another pandemic happening, but we do have a global food challenge predicted for 2050. So we can start doing something about that now. By 2030, they're trying to end like hunger in the world. And I was like, right, then we need co-ops to be part of that movement. To solve some of the world issues requires the people of the world to participate, not a handful of people. You know, the same way we said, you know what, we need to decentralize our financial systems because it's hurting the collective, is the same reason we need to decentralize food systems. And then now you end up with foods that are really good for you, and we end up with a lot of local knowledge on why certain things are good for you and stuff like that, and eating things in season, and we end up with a way more balanced diet, and we can be like, rest assured where everything came from. So the evolution happens because this is an ongoing thing. And we've got to be mindful of moving with the times and not displacing people in the process of progress.
So good, man. And it starts with education, right? And that's why I'm really a big fan of your project, because not only are you bringing these tools, you're bringing education and you're spreading awareness, like co-op awareness. I'll be honest, I didn't really understand or grasp what a co-op was until we started talking. And I think that's probably true for most people in Western society, simply because we're so insulated and like so used to the convenience of go to the grocery store. Like everything's taken care of, right? We don't have to worry about collaborating with our neighbors to grow real food, but we can and we should, and we'd be much healthier and better off if we did.
Here's the other great thing. Co-ops can still sell back to grocery stores. Co-ops are member-owned organizations that can still function like a normal business. They can be for profit or not for profit. Like there is so much flexibility, but you just have the entity that can exist to do something as a collective. And that's what's really exciting. So it's like, yeah, you can still supply grocery stores. You can still supply faraway nations. You can still do all of the stuff, but it's been done from a member-based perspective.
Yes.
You know, so now you can be in the US and you're part of a cocoa farm in Cote d'Ivoire, or you're part of a coffee farm in Brazil. You know, you might be part of a palm oil farm in Asia somewhere. You know, you might be part of a rice farm. You know, you can be part of a tea farm in India, like, because you're part of the co-op. And the co-op, whilst we're saying they can operate locally, no, by being on chain and being part of AgriiDAO, you're already global. So you can be trading globally. And we're going to continue to build out tools that make that easier and easier and easier.
Let's go.
So yeah, man, it's and this is, yeah, you're right. It continues to evolve. Like, I know, okay, we want to do these things here, and it's just like, okay, but we're here now, so let's deal with here. But you know, there's a long roadmap of where we want to go.
One piece at a time. Yep. Okay, cool. Well, I wanted to bring up the big question that everyone's asking about. When SNS? I've got a lot of comments on and some of our earlier videos we've done, and you know, people want to know how they can participate, how they can support, invest, etc. And so I know you've been working really hard with the team to kind of piece the puzzle together to prepare for SNS. And so, yeah, I just wanted to get a temperature check on that.
SNS, we're looking really good. On our roadmap, Q1, we had co-ops the dashboard for the protocol, and SNS as the main things that would be happening for Q1. SNS is dependent on the co-ops, not so much the dashboard. The dashboard is us saying, you don't need to listen to us say, trust me, bro, it's all there. And it's for less technical people to be able to just go there and look at it like an explorer. Essentially look at it like a data explorer. We might even call it data explorer. I don't know. Maybe dashboard might, confuse people a bit. But ultimately, it's the explorer for data. So that's happening. The co-ops are happening. Once we've got those two things ready, then we're looking at SNS. Interestingly, I just discovered that someone made an AgriiDAO token on Pump.FUN.
What?
Yeah. I was like, okay, well, we clearly did something for someone to feel like they should make an AgriiDAO Pump.FUN token.
Interesting.
So we're, just about to put an announcement out to say it's got nothing to do with us.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah. So we have no tokens until SNS. SNS is the first attempt or the first time we will be producing an AgriiDAO token. And hopefully this is a project that people would want to get behind. We have a journey ahead of us. So I'm not going to pretend to anybody that, listen, you know what, you're going to get rich quick with AgriiDAO. No, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't know how to do that.
It's about so much more than that.
Yeah. Because we are building the infrastructure for our children's food systems. That's what we're doing here right now with AgriiDAO. And it doesn't matter how much money you have, if the food systems are not good, it's going to affect you. But we can do something about those food systems now through AgriiDAO. And we are probably going to produce more RWAs than anybody else in the ecosystem. I did the maths, I did the numbers, and they are very impressive and very mind-blowing, to say the least. But there's a lot that's going to be produced, because that's how much, think about the amount of food that's produced globally. Mm-hmm. And now tokenizing that. Right. We're tokenizing something that's totally different. Like, there's actually an unlimited supply. There is not a limited supply of food. Food is unlimited.
Infinite.
As long as we continue, even if we don't grow food, food will grow. We've just learned to domesticate and cultivate certain types of crops. But these things grow in the wild anyway. Some of them are edible and some of them are not. So there's an infinite supply of food. However, there is a lack of distribution of food. There is a lack of preservation of food. So in that infinite supply, we also have an infinite wastage that happens.
Yes.
50% is lost post-harvest. That's even before it gets to the house and all the rest of it. So in terms of the amount of RWAs that we can create and what that actually translates to and what that looks like in terms of global impact on greenhouse emissions, like food contributes 10% to global greenhouse emissions, food waste. So ultimately, the goal of AgriiDAO is, whilst we're decentralizing food systems, the end goal is to reduce waste. Because in decentralizing food systems, we should be able to have a better understanding of what we have, where we have it. Do we need more? Is it wasting? What do we do to prevent wastage? Sharing best practices. It's literally connecting the food system globally to reduce waste, improve nutrition, and improve access.
Phenomenal. And that's a really nice segue into the freeze-dried tech, maybe, talking about the food waste problem. You want to just briefly touch on how AgriiDAO plans to employ freeze-dried tech to minimize waste?
Okay, yeah. So so based on how we're positioning ourselves, AgriiDAO itself won't be doing anything to do with freeze-dried tech.
AgriiFoods, rather.
Yeah. AgriiFoods at the co-op level will focus on building out a freeze-dried first food system, whereby food is grown for the purpose of freeze-drying, and focus on doing that, because what that means is we end up with reducing waste to zero, at least within the farms that we work on, because everything gets freeze-dried, which means that now all of that food that could have been wasted is now preserved for 25 years.
Secured.
Over time, we are now offsetting the waste, because we're not going to stop waste. But what's happening is we're offsetting the waste based on the fact that we are preserving so much of it.
It's a hedge.
The hedge, exactly. It's the hedge. And then it's the hedge compounded over time.
Mm-hmm.
It's over time how much of that food, what's the value of that food over time like. There is so much to freeze-drying food. If we freeze-dry the food today at today's price, 25 years from now, it won't be today's price. But it's still, right. The value is still today's price. If you know what I mean. Like, let's just say food increased 25x from now in 25 years, right? 25x the price. So, you know, it was $1, now it's $25. You can still afford to give it to someone for $1 because it only cost you $1.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm.
The true value is locked. We freeze-dried the food and the price at the same time.
Phenomenal. Yep.
You know, so no matter what's happening with the, you know, and then we've got 97% retention of nutritional value. Boom. And that's really, really, really important, because what a lot of people don't realize about freeze-dried foods is that it's a lot more concentrated in flavor, nutrition, and color. You've only taken out the moisture. Moisture is what causes food to spoil. Freeze-drying saps out 98% of the moisture. And then it can also be rehydrated as well. I think freeze-drying will become a lot more prominent in the future as it becomes cheaper. Right now, it's still quite expensive to freeze-dry. So in the future, and the future can be anything from like within the next 5 years, or it could be longer, it will cost less to freeze-dry food. But just because it costs less to freeze-dry food doesn't mean that the food being freeze-dried is quality. So there's still the quality stuff that you need to do with it and all the rest of it. Like, it's really interesting. When you lower the barriers to certain things, you also lower the barrier of quality. And these are the things that we want to just build in now into the ecosystem. And this is what AgriiFoods is focusing on doing and just getting it right. So, yeah.
Very, very good. Well, we've covered quite a bit. Is there anything else you think we missed, or any messages you want to get out to the community?
There's always loads of things happening, but I think AgriiDAO is a decentralized food system. You know, we provide tools. The tools that we're building for decentralized food systems are going to transform the way we engage with food and change the perception of food. Each tool has a story to tell, and each one will be telling a story. So it's like always trying to look at AgriiDAO in its entirety. Sometimes we zone into a particular thing at the time because it's the tool. But ultimately, it's a collection of tools that will help with the decentralized. It's not just one. And what I'm really also looking forward to is when more developers build new tools to add to the protocol, build new tools for the co-ops. Like, we're just covering a really tiny vertical, but it's so diverse, and it's just like, we do want more devs to build tools. What's going to be exciting is to see what happens with caffeine, and, you know, if we can plug caffeine into a co-op, and then the co-ops can essentially use caffeine to build tools that are useful for that particular co-op. Because I think when we're speaking about co-ops, it sounds like it's a very generic thing, but the truth is it's actually very personalized, because every business, when we say the word business, it sounds generic, but when you go and look at every business, they operate differently. Even if they have all the same fundamentals, they're all different because they're unique. And I think that's what we're doing with the co-ops, is just literally providing a framework. And we've called that framework Decentralized co-op real world asset standard, decentralized co-op real world asset standard, DCRS. And that standard essentially encapsulates everything that's happening, or is taking like all the best parts of the co-op, the traditional co-op, and kind of like the best parts of Web3 and turned it into something that's compliant. That's the standard that we've created, but the standard in action is the actual co-op. The co-op is that. And why I went into that is because I'm saying that, but it's still just a frame. It's an empty vessel that can now have additional apps built. So it's a bit like Shopify. If you look at our co-op model, like Shopify, everyone can get a co-op, and then you can now start adding different tools and things to
Plug it in.
Yeah, plugins. So we want people to build plugins on chain, on ICP, for AgriiDAO, for the co-ops, like more tools, more useful tools, extender tools, all these types of things there. I don't know what that's going to look like, but I know it's going to be fucking great.
Let's go. So exciting. So exciting. Yeah, I don't think you've touched on that aspect yet.
Oh, I haven't told you that far before.
No, so I mean, there could be a co-op for devs, huh?
Yeah, I mean, look, we can have a co-op called AgTech, for instance. The AgTech co-op, people can fund the AgTech co-op, and this AgTech co-op, people join it as members, right? And then now someone puts a project forward for this AgTech co-op for, let's say, soil health automation, and it feeds data to the protocol, right? And they're like, look, it's going to cost me about, let's stick with 10,000 for now, 10,000 to build this. Then it's going to have sensors, and this is the full project. This is how it's going to work. Here's the milestones. And in exchange, or the rewards for participating in this project are going to be usage RWAs. So it's going to generate usage, because this thing's going to now need to, like, nothing in this world is free. As much as something sounds like it's free, no, someone somewhere is paying for something. So this usage, so this person says, yeah, this is going to be a usage, like a token. It's like, you know, when you use AI, they say you have X amount of tokens. So people think it's free, like there's X amount of tokens that are being allocated, that are being used, and those tokens are representing usage. So now all of the people who've now participated now have these usage tokens, and they can swap these usage tokens for Agrii, for people who want to start using this particular tool. This tool can now be proposed to the DAO to say, can you add this to the AgriiDAO App Store? And now the DAO would vote, yes, add it to the AgriiDAO App Store, because it's providing it's got all the fundamentals correct. So now anytime somebody uses this tool is gonna require a usage token. And then the usage token is the RWA, which now gets redeemed by the holder, and then they get the, you know. So, but this is kind of like where I see it, like the AgriiDAO App Store, the App Store for building tools for food systems, and those tools can go all the way into a restaurant. So we're not limiting what someone can or can't. We're here. But in terms of, we can start all the way from the seed, all the way to the restaurant, all the way to the supermarket. Wherever you can integrate this thing, that's what we want to do. And that's what protocol is there for new tools and apps to be built and to be added to the App Store. And once again, the DAO's goal, the DAO's job in that point would be to vote projects into the App Store. They'll have to be open source. So essentially they'll follow similar rules of an SNS. Mm-hmm. You know, code must be open source, needs to be It needs to be checked out properly. Then it can be approved and added. And then now all of the co-op members can choose to now add these tools to their co-ops. Or they can, so some tools might be co-op tools, some tools might be member tools. I don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
You know,
it's so cool. It's like you don't have to be a farmer. You don't have to be in infrastructure or supply chain. You could be a dev and participate in co-ops. So that just kind of expands the paradigm.
Just opens up the whole thing. It's an industry that needs everything. You know, someone can create a liquidity co-op. Like,
Mhm.
is based on the imagination and what you think is needed in the ecosystem to improve it.
Mhm.
And then it's like looking to say, okay, how am I going to connect with these guys and those guys? And like, that's what's really exciting about it. And that's why we want to invite people to come on board to utilize the platform and then grow the platform. If you look at it like an iPhone, when the iPhone comes and when a smartphone comes, it comes with like prepackaged tools that were built
Mhm.
by the company. And
Mhm.
then everyone else can add more tools to make it more useful. So our pre-packaged tools are going to be co-op, trace, price, market, and protocol. And everybody else can add more things to the protocol to make the co-ops more useful to members.
Even like the educational aspect could be its own lane. You
Yes,
know, there could be
education.
co-ops dedicated just to educating people on
Yep,
nutrition, food security, all the stuff we're talking
yep,
about.
yep,
And then like promotion, marketing, that could be
yep.
its own lane.
Everything, everything. Like we anticipate all professions participating in this because everyone has something to add to it. Not all
Mhm.
things will be a co-op. Some things might be because, like I said, if you look at the co-op as an organization, as an entity, the co-op itself can manage multiple projects.
Right.
That co-op is a can operate as a public-facing entity for all of the projects that are happening and be pushed out from that co-op. So that
Mhm.
co-op produces stuff as well. So it's like, it's very dynamic. It's not rigid. And yeah, it's the future of how we're going to do business.
Let's grow. So exciting, man. Say there's a project within a certain co-op
Mhm.
that's doing really well, that has demand internationally. Like, is there a way for that project to go outside of that individual co-op into other co-ops? Is that even making
No.
sense?
So, okay, I get what you're saying, but I mean,
Uh-huh.
people can buy into that project by joining that co-op.
Okay.
People can join the project by joining the co-op. Projects exist within co-ops
Yes.
because those projects essentially they generate revenue for the co-ops through the co-op's fee. So the co-op, and what's great about it is the co-op sets their own fees. So one co-op might say our fees are 5%, another co-op might say it's 15%. These are fees that are charged to projects. So the more successful the projects are, the bigger the treasury can grow. And then those funds from the co-ops can be distributed amongst members or reinvested into more projects and stuff like
Got
that.
it.
If a project is really, really pumping, it's good for the co-op because more people want to join that co-op to join that project. Interestingly, some projects might be limited, like we don't accept new people into the project. So the project might be like, okay, this project is going to run for 10 years and we're going to raise 500,000. And once you've raised the 500,000, we're not raising anything additional. And so it's just the members who've gone into that project are the ones who are going to continuously be the recipients of the RWAs as well as with the project. And what's great about projects is this, a bit like how the SNS works where you have to do the allocations. So the project, let's say for instance, this co-op says we take 10%. So 10% of whatever's generated by the project will go to the co-op. Then the co-op itself decides what's going to be the split between us and our members. It might be a 50-50 split, it might be
Okay.
a 60-40 split, it might be and it's a split of what's going to be produced and who's going to get what. And that's the way it works there. And we're looking at other models because whilst we're trying to find models that allow people to kind of just sit back and work on autopilot, a lot of those models lean towards being a security.
Hmm.
So that's why our model is very much an active model. There are some things in the future that might that might automate it a bit better and avoid being and remain compliant, but we're still exploring that.
Yeah. Thanks for entertaining my abstract question.
No, but we need
Does
those.
that even make sense what I'm asking? So like a project wouldn't transcend the co-op. If it's really pumping and people want to use it, they're going to come to the co-op. That's
You're
the
going to come to the
structure.
co-op. The only way you can get involved in that project is, well, I mean, interestingly, I mean, as we continue to go on, because we're only in version 1 now, and we don't know what the demands are going to be and what type of flexibility people are going to need and stuff like that. But the way that it's set at the moment is projects are it's a bit like having a token cell. There's a time limit. Once that time limit's hit, either the project is funded or it's not funded. And if it's funded, then chances are there won't be another opportunity to participate in funding the project. You can only participate in utilizing the output of the project. That's how it's designed at the moment. As we see how people are using it and what the demand looks like and the conversations and stuff, then, a proposal could be put forward to ask for certain adjustments. Any adjustment that we make in the co-ops, any adjustment we make in AgriiDAO is always going to be led by compliance first.
Okay.
The first question that we're going to ask always is, does this put our compliance at risk? And if the answer is no, then we move to the next part. And the reason why we, as much as we've got an administration in the US that is pro-crypto, we don't know what that actually looks like. We just know it's pro-crypto. That doesn't mean that there's no regulation. It's like right now it could be a bit more of the Wild West, but at the same time, the world exists on regulations. So expect things to be regulated. The same way that they're saying, look, any US-based crypto company gets certain, well, yeah, because there's things that are going to come. So it's like, we don't know what the future holds, but we should build for a regulated future if we expect this to go mainstream. There's no way what we're doing now will go mainstream without some form of regulation. So we're just building for it. And like I said, we're taking something that's already has a structure and is kind of regulated. When we start looking at food standards and stuff like that, we start looking at, okay, what's the regulation for food standards globally, and how do we factor all of these things into? So there's a number of things that we're going to be doing, but we're always making sure that, because that's the only way that we can deliver real value to people. So we're going to try to take away the things that people don't necessarily know and bundle it into what we've built. So you're compliant whether you like it or not, because this is what this is, telling us to do. Once we've got past this phase, we're going to start looking into building out our internal AI agents based on the things that we need them to be doing internally. We don't plan on, having a huge team. We plan on having a functional team and taking cues from the larger organizations on what they're doing and utilizing the tools that enable us to be more productive. And then hiring the necessary people who are going to keep their fingers on the pulse of the things that we need to be aware of as AgriiLabs. So AgriiLabs, post SNS, AgriiLabs, the developer, we continue doing what we're doing, and we continue ensuring that we're just bringing tools that are useful. We want tools that NGOs, governments, profit, non-profit individuals can use because it's been designed in a way that's useful. Like, we want governments to be able to deploy funds through AgriiDAO, through our co-ops, to projects in their countries, knowing that it's going to be managed via an on-chain co-op. Those types of things. We want, we want to see AgriiDAO really embody regenerative finance, because that's ultimately what's coming. Like, the finance just keeps regenerating. It doesn't disappear into thin air. Like, when you give a grant, the grant's done, but did the grant produce something that can now fund somebody else's grant? Probably not. But for the way that we designed our co-op model, the funds can come back into the people and they can fund something else and just, it's got to be self-sustaining.
Yes.
And so we want to be able to now use this model to say, hey guys, actually, all of those budgets that you've created and all those funds, if you allocate a portion here, we can ensure that it will keep on regenerating itself. In fact, over 5 years, it might have returned XYZ%, as opposed to being obliterated into nothing.
Love it so much. Interestingly, I think that's the first time you mentioned AgriiLabs this whole call. So that's just a testament to like the scale of this operation. You want to just briefly explain AgriiLabs?
AgriiLabs is we're the devs. It's just it's the team behind everything. We're the guys in the background. We're the organization in the background. We're not a foundation as of yet. I don't know what our final form would look like. We're a bit like Goku and ascending into various layers and levels. AgriiLabs is literally just building out all of the tools, and we're like the Definity of AgriiDAO. That's the easiest way for everyone to understand it. Our job is to take on that same role of building out the roadmap and continuing to ensure that we're contributing to the growth and development of AgriiDAO.
And eventually you let it go to an extent, right? Just as Definity is going to let go of ICP, it potentially becomes more and more decentralized over time.
Yeah, I mean, yes, that's exactly what will happen. And I think, like I said, our goal is just to continuously provide tools and build things. And over time, and this is why I said, like, the whole idea of everybody else building tools for AgriiDAO. And that's where that comes into play. Like, over time, these are the things that we're focusing on, and we're going to continue focusing on things that we believe are very important. But there are loads of things that we're not looking at, which actually local developers are in a better position to build for those communities. Because you understand some things need to be built from a vernacular perspective, from a this is how we do it perspective. The mistake that happens a lot with tech in general is one size fits all when one size doesn't fit all. There's a lot of bias in tech based on who's building it and what their perspective they're building it from. So cool, then everyone build your own tools that you need, and if it's useful to somebody else, fantastic. If it can be adapted, fantastic. But we definitely want to decentralize, the ongoing build. And AgriiLabs will always play a crucial role in the DAO. Like, we're here long term. So whilst we might release the rails, we might end up becoming a lot more prominent as co-op operators. Also, as being co-op operators, it means that we also are seeing, we're building things, okay, we need this, and we need this, and we need this. So we continue building things that everybody else might see useful. But yeah, so that's the goal. But our goal is not to control the DAO. It's just to be a main contributor and be a main contributor until somebody else can contribute more than we can contribute and collaborate with others and stuff like that. Looking at doing some cross-chain work. So looking, definitely utilizing chain fusion. So we want to be chain agnostic.
That's right.
To ensure that other people can join, utilize the framework. So we're just kind of putting these things in place to make sure that, the DAO as a whole is always served first.
Brilliant. Very good. And it's not, as much as we love ICP, it's not all about ICP is the best. All other chains are inferior, right? Like, it's not about that at all.
No, it's not. I think that I don't even have enough knowledge on everything that's out there to really have that statement with conviction. I can say that ICP has enabled us to build what we've built. And I don't know anywhere else that I can do that. So that I can say and stand by. ICP enabled us to build a blockchain on a blockchain, essentially. We built a ledger, a data ledger on a cloud compute platform, right? The world computer allowed us to do that. So I think, if anything, ICP is just demonstrating, here's what you can do. Like, here are all of these tools, and they're 100% on chain. That's what ICP has done. In terms of accessing larger markets, the other platforms might have or do have like larger communities, larger liquidity pools, and all the rest of it. So the goal is to invite those guys, because even within those guys, you've got people who care about food, you've got people who are doing agriculture, and I've met people from other chains who are doing other projects with regards to food and agriculture. And the goal is to be able to enable them to, plug in to the protocol,
team up,
plug into the protocol, create your own co-op, find ways to make those things work.
Amazing. Yep. Well, food is life, right? So we can't be tribal or competing with this stuff. We need to work together.
We definitely do. And the whole essence of the DAO and the thinking behind us having the DAO in the first place was because Terry shouldn't be in charge of world food. I don't know what's going to happen if I have that much power.
Mm-hmm.
No one should have that much power. No single country should have that power over another country, shouldn't have that power over another community, over another human being. So it needs to be decentralized. So hopefully the model that we're designing is a model that encourages a lot more collaboration, and the best of the best of the best decides to plug into AgriiProtocol.
If you build it, they will come, and you're building it.
I've been turned down for 2 grants, and it didn't stop me from building.
Let's go.
If I don't make the minimum, it's not going to stop us from building. Like, I set this mission. This mission was not,
Yep.
This is not the easiest way to make money. I can guarantee everyone that.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've got enough technical capacity and thought process to jump on something else that would just make money.
For sure.
So this was definitely not about the money, but this was just like, guys, we have the tenacity, we have the endurance, we've proven that with or without, this is something we must do because it's a necessity. So hopefully the community can see that and be like, you know what, let's give it a try. It may or may not work, but there's a strong possibility it will.
Yep.
Because that's like with anything. Even building on ICP is a risk. The risk being we don't know what 10 years, 5 years holds. Building on any chain is a risk. So you've got to have conviction to do it.
Sir. Mm-hmm.
So we have the conviction. We said, right, we put all of our eggs in this basket. The benefit that other projects have that don't build on ICP is that their token is on a particular chain, and they can easily change that token to another chain and their platform will be unaffected. If something ever happened to ICP, every project that's been built on ICP is affected. Mm-hmm. Because all of our code is there, everything is there. We've built using Motoko, which is a particular language. All these.
That's right.
So there's a huge risk that I think the community needs to be aware of when builders build, and the level of conviction that they need to have to build something substantial. And substantial not necessarily from a technical perspective, but also substantial from the amount of
impact.
What makes it work. Because I think it's not always about, like, Definity has done a great job in abstracting out so much of the technicalities for us. We only have to use our brain to just think of an idea and know how to write the code. You always get to these roadblocks, these forks in the road, which is like advance or stop. And a lot of people just, I'm just going to stop. It's not in my nature to stop. I don't have the capacity to stop. I just know how to pivot. I don't have the capacity to stop. I was like, why would I stop? I've put so much into this. Mm-hmm. So stopping isn't an option. Adjusting is. I've got this saying, and my definition of perfection. Perfection is agile persistence. Agile in what you do, persistent in how you go about doing it. And that's perfection, because you can't just, it's agile persistence. I like these conversations because, once again, it's just like, there's the conversation I have with myself, there's a conversation I have with AI, there's a conversation I have with the team. All of those 3 conversations make sense to me because we're all in the same bubble.
Yes. Now
I need to talk to people outside of us and get the feedback on the conversations. And those feedbacks is what's led to the tweaking of the model and stuff like that. My thought process is always about, this is cool, but what's the problem? Until I get to a point where I can't find a problem myself. I'm just like, okay, cool, this is cool like this for now. We're good. Problems will arise, but that's kind of like, in a way of, okay, this works, but what's the problem? What's the issue? And then speak to other people about it. So but it's cool. Definitely great conversation. I always enjoy these conversations with you.
Thanks so much for sharing all this and all your hard work and your team's hard work as well. How can people help now for those who are itching to participate and support?
So it's interesting because I think just because we're a small team, we have to pick and choose where our focus is. I think one of the things that we designed early on to help people, for people to assist us, was our social rewards. And we haven't done a huge or a fantastic job of really pushing those out. We've only listed our X and our open chat rewards, like literally join the AgriiDAO platform, and then you can earn points by engaging with our content, likes, reposts, original content, joining us on open chat, getting involved in conversations and stuff like that. But we do have a lot more campaigns that we want to release for different platforms. So we want to go beyond X. We want people to create original content, whether it's in articles on Nuance or Medium, videos for YouTube, videos for X, videos for TikTok, memes. So we want to use all of those things that are happening. And whilst people are supporting us, essentially earning rewards for doing so, I suppose. I think that's probably like the lowest hanging fruit. Because if you're going to talk about us, you might as well just let us know that you spoke about us so you can just get some points for it.
No doubt. And so for people like me who are super fans, who are like eager to contribute, should they reach out to you directly right now or comment? Like how can they, like if they're itching to make TikTok videos, for example?
Look, if you're itching to make TikTok videos, make them. Mm-hmm. Make them. And we've already got everything in place to just turn on that campaign. So whatever you do, even if it's old, as long as it's done, if there's a campaign for it, you literally just go to AgriiDAO, you go to social rewards, click on it, you click the one that you want. Like if it's a TikTok, you click on TikTok, add your TikTok username so we can, verify you or check that it's you, do the verify. Post the link to the task you completed, if it's a video. So once we can verify that, then we can approve it, bang, and then you just earn the rewards. Like it's that simple at the moment. So even if the rewards don't exist at the moment, once they exist, all you've got to do is literally just paste all of the links for everything you've done, like historically, and we'll literally just go through and check all of them, check, and just earn the rewards. And it's all fully on chain. So once you've earned the reward, that reward is coming to you. We have a leaderboard as well. Nice. So we're going to be doing some exciting things with the leaderboards, depending on where people are on the leaderboard, what type of bonuses they can get and stuff like that. So there's a lot more to come with that stuff as well.
Phenomenal. Looking forward to that. And I'll certainly help shout that out and encourage people to use it when the time comes.
Yeah. And I think even with the co-ops, so what we want to do is we also want to give co-ops the ability to create their own type of social rewards. To help spread the message about that particular co-op, what they're into, what their messages are, so their members can do things like that. So we're literally, because this is what it's all about, and it's about doing it in a fair and equitable way, transparently, and people participate in so many ways. And I think that everyone should be rewarded for it. Marketing is a huge part. It's a huge part of any organization's success, however they choose to do it. By saying I'm not spending money on marketing, you're still marketing. It's a statement that everybody knows. Like you're taking the stance, and there's different ways that you can choose to do that. Some people are not considered coals. They're not considered influencers. So they never get those opportunities to earn something from their role that they played in pushing something forward, because I might have got 10 people to participate because I shared it, Mm-hmm. And unless there's a referral program, which we kind of do have one, but we haven't activated yet as well. But even with those things, you kind of have to think about how everything works. But enabling, the more people who are rewarded through social rewards, it enables us to distribute our token more as well. They're like airdrop rewards, but now people are earning them for doing different things, and now they can use that to actually get into a co-op. So someone might say, look, I don't really have the money to put into a co-op, but they put in all of the work, doing the social rewards, earning the token. And then now they take that and they use that token to join a co-op, to fund a project, to earn the RWA. And then they can choose to do what they want with the RWA, and they can rinse and repeat.
Such a beautiful thing. So much utility.
I think that was one of the core things that was at the top of my mind with our tokens, to say, okay, how many times can we make sure that this token is used? And that's what we've done. We've built the token into what we're doing, like 100%.
Phenomenal. Well, we could talk for days, Terry.
100%.
It's always a pleasure, but thanks again for your time. I commend AgriiDAO's mission, and I'm excited to see what y'all continue to cook up. Yeah, until the next one.
Yeah, we're cooking. Hopefully, we should be dropping some new stuff on the community soon. We're just getting through it, getting through our final integrations and then tests and then live and then next steps.
One step at a time.
Yeah.
Let's go.
But yeah, Chris, thank you again. Really appreciate the opportunity. I always enjoy having our conversations and the questions that come along. Some I know the answers to, some I'm like, that's a good question. Let me think about that. So it's really good. I'm looking forward to more of these conversations. They really do help. They help get the message out to the wider community, and then they also help in refining the messaging and ensuring that if you can understand it, then that means everyone else can understand it.
Yes.
And it's different when we're talking in the team. We get it because we're doing this all the time. So having the conversations outside are always good. So I really appreciate the opportunities to be able to bounce ideas around with you and talk about what we're doing.
Likewise, bro. Really appreciate your time.